the Borg-Warner Trophy, grand prize in the world's greatest race, the Indy 500. Since 1911, for 78 years, excluding the war era, great drivers and mechanical masterminds have pooled their efforts in pursuit of 500 victory. But to win the big prize, you've got to make the big show. Disappointment and disaster loom in every turn in the quest to qualify. To overcome all that, to make the field, is to join the elite of world motorsports, to be an Indy 500 driver, to have a shot at the biggest prize of all. 3 decades ago, Gasoline Alley welcomed a host of new faces. In 1965, Mario Andretti took off his rookie stripes. So too did Al Unser. New technologies changed the face of what had been a uniquely American sport. A rear-engine car won in 1965 and has won every year since. 3 decades later, Gasoline Alley awaits Mario's Arrivederci 500. Big Al struggles to make the field, and the old Brickyard has become a dizzying whirlwind of speed. Computer designs and aerodynamics enable modern-day chassis to grip the tight Indy turns at full throttle. New power plants generate speeds of 245 miles per hour. And on pole day, the racing world watches and waits to see who will be fastest at Indianapolis. It is a typical May Sunday afternoon in Indianapolis. Broken clouds and very comfortable temperatures. A beautiful day to bask in the sun. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain. We're live from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Derek Daly alongside as we bring you the second day of qualifying for the Indy 500. And Derek, yesterday with the Pacers, the President, and the pole, it was an alliterative delight here in Indianapolis. But when it was all over, for the 250,000 fans who jammed this old racetrack, well, the Commander-in-Chief's speech and the 20-point basketball victory for the local team definitely were second and third fiddle. It was an interesting and dramatic day, and it was a day that ended up extending on into this Sunday afternoon. The car on the track, I believe that's Willie T. Ribbs. This is just a car out for practice because at the moment our qualifying runs are complete, and we have in fact set the pole. It took us a little longer than we anticipated.
But we've had lots of storylines on the way. We have spent a week trying to control cars, trying to control engines and drivers, but at the end of the day, you cannot control the changing weather conditions in Indiana. However, some of the storylines were great. From Japan, we had a first, a worst, and a last. First qualifier, Matsuda. Last qualifier, Matsushita. And worst qualifier, the Honda engine. That is definitely a story. But I think one of the big stories was Lynn St. James, the spirit of the American woman. I think it exemplifies the spirit of the true competitor, because the work she has done to drag herself on to the second row of the grid, I think, is mighty impressive.
Ultimately, the pole up for grabs on Saturday. Well, Al Unser Jr. had to wait overnight for his 228 to hold up, but ultimately it did. He has his first pole at Indianapolis. The Brazilian Raul Boesel starts in the middle of the front row, and Emerson Fittipaldi in the second of the Penske Mercedes today came up short and sits outside row 1.
And the fastest rookie ever to qualify at Indianapolis, Jacques Villeneuve, carrying such a famous name. Between him, Michael Andretti, and of course, Lynn St. James, a tremendous performance on the outside of row 2.
The Arrivederci Tour continues. Mario Andretti will start outside row 3 in his final 500. His teammate Nigel Mansell on the inside. And in the middle, Arie Luyendyk in the best of the Ilmor D engines. He'll be starting 8th on the grid 2 weeks from today.
Row 4, John Andretti spent very few laps in this particular car, benefited from the testing abilities of Brian Herta, who helped set up the car. Qualifies inside row 4. Cheever, more testing miles over the winter than anybody here. Disappointed with his run. And Dominic Dobson, the first of the Pac West cars.
21 cars qualified altogether yesterday. They included Stan Fox, who for the first time got to run 4 qualifying laps flat out. Good for 222 and inside row 5. The rookie, Matsuda, the new Japanese driver in the show, is in the middle of row 5. And a rookie, Dennis Vitolo, outside. He was very impressive, not having run more than 220. He came up with 222 when it mattered yesterday.
Moving on to row 6, Jimmy Vasser in the Conseco Reynard, one of the new Reynards here that has run very well and very consistently. The second of the Pac West cars in the middle with Scott Sharp, another rookie. And then Matt Schuster on the outside, the Japanese driver, the outside of row 6.
Bobby Gordon, after such a troubled Indianapolis last year, starts on the inside of row 7 for his sophomore start here. Roberto Guerrero has struggled all month to get to 221. Good for the middle of row 7. And Brian Till starts on the outside of the 7th row in the MyJack car, the 93 Lola with the Ford XB power plant.
Row 8, Brian Herta was an unemployed racing driver with impeccable credentials until he got the call from A.J. Foyt to take over from Davy Jones. He's on row 8. Gugelmin from Brazil, another Reynard, and Bobby Rahal, the former national champion, such a disaster last year, and he is in struggle city again here.
And so too his teammate Mike Groff at 218 miles an hour, the slowest of yesterday's qualifiers and a likely candidate to be bumped. Adrian Fernandez is the first of today's qualifiers. You see the speed at 222, but as a second-day qualifier, the best he can do is back there in row 9, and that alludes to the complex qualifying procedures here at Indianapolis. One of the 2 men who will patrol pit road today is Jan Beekes, and he can tell us a bit about the conditions that right now render this a practice rather than a qualifying opportunity for the drivers.
That's right, Dave. Weather is always the story here when it comes to speed at Indianapolis. The sun has been out, but now the clouds have covered. If you have nice weather for the spectators behind me, it's not good weather for speed. The warm temperatures slow the track down. You can also see from the flags the wind is starting to pick up. And in some of the earlier qualifying runs in turn 2, a lot of trouble for the drivers because the wind was altering their line through that portion of the track. Now, if it continues to cloud over, maybe the speed will come up and we'll see more qualifying attempts.
Well, we're down here with Al Unser Jr., the man who had a long, long night. How long was it there?
Well, I can tell you I was on the Weather Channel all night last night, pretty much.
Hoping for more rain?
Well, I was hoping for more rain, sure, but if not, then very hot and very windy, and we got a little bit of the warm, but it was very much wind. So.
Tell us about your run yesterday. Go through it for us.
Well, it was a good run. We, you know, I was a little bit shy on that first lap, and I saw the 25 show up on my dash, and I just thought, man, I got to get after this thing. And what can I say? The Marlboro car went through the corners. The Mercedes got me down the straightaway, so it was great.
So now $100,000. I know you need the money. How many bills you gonna pay, and what you gonna pay first?
Well, probably Shelly's going to take care of that 100 grand, but you know, the PPG award is really great, and we're awfully glad that they're in the sport as heavy as they are, and you know, this is my first time I've ever been on a front row, so it's going to be good.
Last question I was going to ask you, which is a sweeter taste, winning the pole or winning the race? You've done both now.
Oh, the race, for sure. No doubt about it. We got one down. We got the most important one to go still in front of us. So
there you got it, guys. The pole sitter for 1994, Al Unser Jr.
With Marty Reed, who joins us today as our second pit reporter. A great day yesterday for Al Unser Jr., but not the story that some had anticipated. The Penske Mercedes-powered sweep of the front row indeed has not happened, and we'll talk more about why it didn't happen as we continue our live coverage here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is the second day of qualifying for the 78th running of the world's greatest race. Live at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where the Penske Panzers came up one short in their effort to dominate qualifying and sweep the front row. They got the pole, Al Unser Jr.'s first. They got the outside of the front row with Emerson Fittipaldi, and all of this, in part at least, because it rained yesterday. Fittipaldi was next to last in line, did not get to qualify, so he had to wait overnight, and so too Mario Andretti's 29th attempt to run here. He was a very disappointed man yesterday at 6 o'clock.
He really was. They've had speeds of 226, 227. You always hope to catch the magical setup when you do finally go out to qualify, but the conditions have played havoc with everybody here, including Mario. So, I mean, it's the very last time we'll see him officially qualify here, and Paul Newman has been here to watch his every move, but you can see he was even aware of the conditions as he took a final look at the sky before Mario took to the racetrack.
This was about 2 hours ago and in the heat of the day, and that was part of the problem, indeed the most significant problem. The conditions yesterday at 6 o'clock perhaps perfect for Mario to go out and run. Hiro Matsushita was on the track at 6 o'clock. The gun sounded, and Mario did not get to make that attempt. He came back out strong with a 2:25, but it went downhill in a hurry.
Downhill from there, and when you see a 2 or a 3 mile an hour drop, you know he is battling severe handling problems. You can see him go down below the white line there. As soon as you come out of the power, you lose the critical momentum, and then suddenly one lap's mistake becomes a 4-lap bit of a disaster.
He was looking all over the racetrack for traction, he said, as the car went terribly loose. You can see the shadows here. The sun, intermittent all day, was shining comparatively brightly at the time he was on the racetrack, and just that little bit of cloud cover or sunshine makes a few degrees of track temperature difference.
And believe it or not, I don't think he thought he had a realistic chance for the pole, but at this stage, Mario was eyeing his teammate Nigel Mansell. Could he beat him? But he was also eyeing Lyn St. James, because Lyn St. James out-qualified Nigel Mansell, and now both factory cars could possibly be out-qualified by Lyn St. James, who really hasn't had near the experience with these cars or with running at these speeds in Indianapolis. I don't think he liked the run.
Here's Mario.
Well, I was obviously hoping to go out yesterday because it was a stroke of luck that the weather was so cool, and our best setup is really there for that type of weather, mainly because we have a really good low downforce set up for that, and I could run to 28 by myself then, but as soon as the sun comes out, I'm dead, and I don't have a good high downforce. We fought about it, fought for it, but we just couldn't get it. So, you know, just one of those things. We just couldn't get it the way we wanted it, but you know, they got the race to worry about now. So,
as far as this being the last time you qualified, what kind of emotions?
Well, obviously I would have liked to have been up there a little bit better, but I'm in the show in good shape, so that's important. I think I have a lot to be thankful for in that respect. So, you know, there's no real big disappointment here in the sense, you know, as I say, we just did all we could, but they did come up a little short.
For today, it is an emotional moment. History will not remember, I don't think, that Mario Andretti started his 29th Indy 500 from outside row 3.
Absolutely not. There is one race, which is this weekend. Only the pole man gets to take away that big check. Incidentally, the check is $100,000, but he also gets a van and other prizes, which has a value really of $150,000 for Al Jr.'s 4 laps yesterday.
And whatever happens to Mario Andretti on Memorial Day, he will leave Indianapolis as one of its all-time great drivers, and certainly has provided us with a great many thrills over the years. We'll be right back.
Back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where we're in the second day of qualifying officially now, and I didn't think I'd be talking to you under these circumstances, Paul. First off, I got to ask you, how are you feeling physically?
Well, physically, I feel fine. We're just a little bit off on the car. This morning, we dialed some wing back out of it and went out to qualify, and it heated up a little bit and had too much push in the car, so it's we waved off our first attempt. I didn't feel it was good enough, so it's we're going to go back out here in about 5-10 minutes. It seems like it's cooled down a little bit and give it a run.
You're worried about the weather coming in? Is that why you're taking it now instead of waiting until it cools off more?
I just want to, you know, get it over with, and that way we can start working on the setup and take a couple days off, and you know, let my neck get better, and you know, take a couple days off and not have to worry about, you know, getting set up for next weekend. So it's we want to get in today and take a couple days off, and then get our race setup done during the week.
Wait a minute, a Roger Penske team taking a day off? Come on.
Well, we're going to be going up to Michigan testing at the end of the week, so it's I need a. You know, my neck is still pretty sore from the other day, and probably take a day off tomorrow and go up to Michigan.
Yeah, I knew he wouldn't get the whole week off. Not with this team. They're always working on something. Paul Tracy, we'll let you get ready to get going. Good luck.
Well, Paul Tracy, of course, lost the opportunity to round out that Penske sweep of the front row when he crashed on Friday. Another Paul Tracy crash at a critical moment in his career.
It really is, and the unfortunate thing for Paul Tracy, he is one of the most talented, naturally gifted drivers that has come along in a long, long time. But he does not possess the discipline that you need to become a true champion. Now, we get a good look here at his crash. It was simply exiting turn 3 in the high groove and simply loses the back end and now he's along for the ride. But people earlier said, well, he's a young driver. Michael Schumacher and Paul Tracy are just about the same age, so Paul Tracy needs to have the discipline of a Schumacher if he is to become a true champion.
I would add an observation to that. I've heard for a long time that that Roger Penske was going to get tired of all these crashes, but you know, it's awfully hard to boot a young man that fast out of the cockpit.
Exactly, but sometime the discipline has to come. Remember, he sat into Rick Mears' seat, the man who has the talent and the discipline, hence the results that were superb all through his career.
You may be wondering, after all our talk about the conditions being less than ideal, why he might be in such a hurry to get out there. Actually, it's irrelevant, really. He's got plenty of speed with that Mercedes engine to put the car somewhere in row 9, and that's the best he can do now because we've had 25 first-day qualifiers, so the speed is pretty much irrelevant at this point. It's been a busy race day already here on ESPN, and there's a great deal more to come. We will have live Winston Cup stock car racing later from Sonoma, California. Earlier today in the famed Monaco Grand Prix run under the cloud of the recent deaths, it was Michael Schumacher with a runaway victory, his 4th straight of the season. You saw him there lapping his teammate J.J. Leto. He got help early when Damon Hill took out Mika Hakkinen and his own car on the very first lap.
And at the end of this race, ESPN paid a lovely tribute to Ayrton Senna, because Senna's passing has affected lots of people here in Indianapolis. Remember, Gugelmin was his best friend, lived with him during their Formula 3 days. Emerson Fittipaldi and Raoul Boesel were pallbearers at Senna's funeral. I don't mind telling you, the tribute brought a tear to my eye watching it.
We have lost a great champion. The sport has lost a great hero. And, of course, the Formula One folks are now reassessing much of what will happen not only in the immediate future of the sport, but also in the long-term future of the sport. And perhaps we'll have an opportunity to talk more about that during the course of the day. We would add that Schumacher is now 4 for 4 and will run away with the championship, barring some unexpected development. We speak of Emerson Fittipaldi, having put the disappointment and disaster of the Italian Grand Prix behind him. He came here to concentrate on the work of Indianapolis. We all thought, including Al Unser Jr., that this was probably going to be the pole sitter. Jr. didn't think that he could hold off Emo, but again, conditions are the story.
And of course, Emerson was very cognizant of Al Unser Jr.'s first lap yesterday, which was in the 225-mile-an-hour range. So really, Emerson only needed a consistency just into the 228 range, and I think he believed he could take it away from Al Jr. But it was not a good run, not the consistency that he wanted. The problem that the Penskes have experienced here this month of May so far is they're arriving so fast at the corners. The tires are not really built for these entry speeds, so they haven't quite grasped that nice sweet spot of handling to give them the consistency that they wanted. However, front row is a reasonable start. They can bolt on lots of downforce now for the race and get those 950 lively kicking Mercedes-Benz horses trundling down the straight for race day.
245-mile-per-hour trap speed for the Mercedes, an engine that was 26 weeks from the drawing board to the dynamometer. The best kept secret in racing, 1994, and Emerson Fittipaldi puts the so-called stock block on the outside of the front row. He's qualified 3rd. He talked about it after the run.
The hat routine going on for Emerson Fittipaldi. You know, the bad news is you didn't get the pole. The good news is that number 3 starting position's not too bad on the first lap, because you can dive for turn 1.
Well, I think, you know, this is a long race, 500 miles. I'm very pleased. I mean, we did an incredible job with the team, you know, the Marlboro team, Penske, with the new Mercedes-Benz engine. All juniors on pole. I'm on the outside on the front row. I mean, the weather today was not the best for us to qualify, but I'm still able to get the front row. I'm very happy.
How soon into the run did you know that you couldn't get Al's time?
Well, the first lap when I did 227, I said, well, I still possibly can do it. But then going to turn 1, the next lap, I turned downwind and the car pushed a lot. I have to back off, and I said, that's it. Next lap is going to be a little slower, and that's exactly what happened. And the humidity, the air, the pressure, I mean, it was not the best day for qualifying.
Yeah, yesterday, what, maybe 2-3 mile an hour quicker? You might have had it then?
Yes, yesterday. In the morning, I did quite easy 229 lap, and today was struggling.
The could-have, should-haves, and would-haves of this sport. Isn't it fun?
Well, if doesn't win race, our junior did a good job. I would like to congratulate him and all the team, and we're looking for a good 500 miles race.
I wonder if we've had the definitive answer to the question of the month as we watch Paul Tracy's car head through Final Tech. That question being, Derek Daly, are the Penske cars sandbagging? You want to give me a yes or no answer on that?
I'll give you a maybe or a possibly.
We may talk about that more. I'm not going to let you off the hook, but they're telling me it's time for a commercial in 2 seconds. We'll be right back. Back live at Indianapolis Motor Speedway on this, the second day of qualifying for the 78th running of the 500. Mario Andretti's last 500. He will start from the outside of row 3. We have 7 starting spots still available. Cars still to qualify. Big names: Gary Bettenhausen, Al Unser, Paul Tracy, Scott Brayton, Scott Goodyear, and Teo Fabi, former winner, Rookie of the Year, guy who came within, well, however many thousandths of a second it was of winning it from Al Unser Jr. in the closest finish ever. So there's still a lot to come here.
There is, and one of the names you see there, which is a surprise, Al Unser Sr. already won this race 4 times. He is here with a brand new 94 Lola. He has the Ford XB engine. There he is right here on our screen, and he has struggled to get this car above 215 miles an hour. So we know he has the talent, but they don't just quite have the communication to understand the mechanics of that car to make it fast enough. But Paul Tracy, he's not going to be anywhere near the front of the grid, but he's got to do it officially, so he's ready to put his 4 laps together as you see him don the helmet and the fireproof suit, or the fireproof mask.
Certainly feeling the pressure here as he saddles up for his qualifying run. Pressure on Jacques Villeneuve, the Canadian rookie yesterday. Well, perhaps, but I certainly didn't see a lot of evidence. What a terrific performance for this youngster.
And this is pure, raw talent that you see behind the wheel of this Players Blue Reynard, managed and run by Barry Green. Barry Green thinks this young man has so much talent to be harnessed and so much success in his future. Terrible crash at Phoenix, has never been to a super speedway before, and yet he comes out and just, I think, shocked everybody at his qualifying performance. He seems to have the ability that when you have to perform, he can dig down deep and pull up that magic 1 or 2 extra miles an hour. Tremendous performance.
We all know that he is the son of the late great Formula One driver who was roundly called Villeneuve, but the man we've been calling Jacques Villeneuve says in reality, and because I plan to make a name for myself in this country, please call me by my proper name. It's Jacques Villeneuve. I hope I've done it justice. It's a name we're going to hear a lot more of. He came from the Japanese Formula 3 ranks into Formula Atlantic and admitted that he really hadn't thought very much about Indy cars in Japan. He said, I couldn't read the newspapers anyway and didn't realize it was such a big deal. But with Barry Green and Tony Sakali, they have put together a terrific team, and he had that car on the front row until he was bumped back to 4th starting spot by Fittipaldi. The rookie will start 4th. Here's what he had to say.
No, I wasn't told, but you know, we worked hard the whole week. The Players Reynard was going very well. It was very comfortable. The team did a fantastic job, and you know, the car was nice to drive, and I could be flat out on every lap, so that was very nice.
Well, he has, I think, made amends for the Phoenix mistake and hitting Matsushita under the yellow. He impressed us all yesterday.
I know the one thing Barry Green tried to impress upon him is take it easy and we can take championship points away from the first 3 races. They don't have any because he didn't take it easy enough. But when you have a driver like that, like Jacques Villeneuve in your car, you tend to overlook a lot of those early rookie mistakes because success is coming for this young man and this new team.
When we come back live from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Paul Tracy will be ready to take his qualifying run. Fittipaldi with the fastest lap of the month, 2:30.5. Raul Boesel close behind with the Cosworth XB. And Paul Tracy had the 3rd fastest lap prior to that Friday crash that disrupted not only his plans, but the hopes for the Mercedes sweep. And so now he's out there running for the middle of row 9, warming up here. His best lap in this car, 2:22. And I believe that was the green flag, which will begin this qualifying run for Paul Tracy. And what a wonderful opportunity for me to bring you right back to the question that so many people have posed all month long. Has Roger Penske shown us everything this Mercedes engine can do? Well, before we get to that, one more interruption. You're lucky again. Check this out. These are the trap speeds at various points around the racetrack. The thing that intrigues me about this, watch how the speed drops off. Speed at the end of the backstretch, 228 miles an hour, scrubbed down to 217, and then let's see how it turns out. Yeah, another loss of a mile an hour to 216. So it takes tremendous acceleration to get back up to a 225 mile per hour lap.
Yes, it does, but I'm sure, I'm sure we'll see those straight line speeds go way up, at least into the high 230 somethings, if Tracy's going to be happy with this run. 223. Remember, he did wave off earlier when he had lapped above 222 miles an hour. But let's not forget, Paul Tracy 2 days ago was knocked unconscious when he crashed his primary car, spent some time in the hospital, damaged his foot very slightly because the car was heavily damaged, but the foot box was remarkably unmarked. He damaged his foot and got some bruising because his foot slipped down between the pedals. But as you say now, it doesn't make any difference where he qualifies. But look at that straight line speed into turn 1, 240 miles an hour, and he loses 25 miles an hour going through turn 1 and loses even more at turn 2, all the way down to 213.
It's hard for the uninitiated to understand when the drivers talk about running flat out all the way around the racetrack, how you can decelerate from 240 to 213 and keep your foot on the pedal all the way through.
Believe it or not, the Penskes have not run flat out here at all during the month of May so far. In fact, the only person that I have found that has said they ran flat out for a complete lap and even more was Lynn St. James, believe it or not, would suggest that she had lots of downforce on her car.
Again, the tremendous straightaway speed, one of the indications of the huge horsepower in this Mercedes, the so-called stock block, the push rod engine, 25% more displacement, 10 inches more boost, a loophole, if you will, in the USAC rule book, through which the Penske team have blasted at a speed of 228 miles an hour to take the pole on the outside of the front row. The talk has been that we haven't seen everything that they have in hand because they don't want USAC to rein them in before race day.
And he takes the checkered flag, so he will start in the middle of row 9. But you do bring up an interesting question. First of all, you have to say congratulations to Roger Penske on having the foresight to see the loophole in the rule book and convince Mercedes-Benz to come in. Now, here's the problem they face. If this car can go 3 or 4 or 5 miles an hour quicker than the opposition, USAC retains the right to change the rules on the amount of boost this car can use all the way up to Sunday morning of the race. Now, what a disaster that would be for your investment and your Mercedes-Benz corporate involvement. So that's a sort of a roundabout answer to the question, do they have more? We don't know, but if they have lots more, they would be clever not to show the complete hand.
In other words, they're sandbagging. Let's go down to the crew chief, Chuck Sprague.
Well, here he is, Chuck Sprague, and he's watching Paul Tracy come by. He'll give him the thumbs up. Nice job, Chuck. Now you have all 3 in. Big relief for you.
Yeah, it's been a tricky couple of days for us. You know, we had the incident with Paul, which really sort of took us back for a while. But, you know, he's done a terrific job coming back in nasty conditions today. And, of course, you know, Emerson got caught out by the luck of the draw, literally. We wound up on the second day where conditions weren't as good. You know, we were hoping for better positions, but Junior's on the pole. I'm overjoyed for him. He's never even been on the front row here. We're just glad to help everybody out. And, you know, all the guys at Ilmore and Mercedes and Penske cars, everybody's just been terrific.
Now, Paul always seems to drive fast when he's hurt. He just seems to come forward and really do the job, and today's another day for that.
Oh, yeah, he's a tough guy. I mean, he's a really tough kid, you know, and he commented a few years ago about how tough Junior was, and I said, remember that. That's what it takes to win championships.
Thank you, Chuck.
Sure.
Dave?
That is the 14th fastest qualifying run here. The question of durability, reliability for this obviously fast but brand new engine.
I think it will be reliable. We have to remember the technology that's available now when you go to build one of these new racing engines. It's so far advanced from anything we have seen in the years past. So you don't have to go through the unreliability pains that you've seen many, many times in racing before. They've been to Michigan. They have done over 500 miles. They have done over 500 miles on 2 different occasions here. So I would have to say, yes, the engine is reliable.
Let's go to Marty Reed with Paul Tracy.
Paul, 14th fastest time, but unfortunately, because second day, you're going to be 26th in the field. But are you glad it's over?
Yeah, I'm not, overjoyed with my time or anything. I wish I could have qualified first day, but I think considering the day and how hot it is today and the wind and everything, it was a pretty good time for this time of day. And I'm just happy to be in and start working on the race setup.
Does this finally put to rest the sandbag issue? I mean, you could have gone faster if you would have, or you would have if you could have.
I think in better conditions, I could have gone faster this morning. I ran 2:24s pretty effortlessly, and after what happened the other day, I think if we could have qualified first day, we would have been all 3 cars on the front row. But this is the way things worked out. It's good to be in the field.
Well, rest that neck. Get ready for next weekend in Michigan and the race. Congratulations on getting the field.
Thanks.
Paul Tracy, he's in the show. Not as happy and not as far up as he wanted to be, but he's in solidly. We'll be back with more from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway after this.
Continues for the 500. We'll be here to cover it live 2:30 Eastern time, and we could very well be down to what my colleague Derek Daly refers to as the bubble. We'll be back at 6 o'clock Eastern time for happy hour here on Saturday, so be sure and tune in for continuing live coverage here. Here's one of John Menard's automobiles coming back out perhaps for practice. These are the cars, of course, that have been so spectacular in qualifying of late, and that's John Paul Jr. hoping to make his 5th Indy 500 in a rather checkered career.
In the Team Losi Performance car, this is probably one of the best prepared and most professional of the much smaller teams. But we saw the Buick from John Menard being towed up the pit lane. Jeff Brabham is here and hopes to actually drive that particular car.
Brabham, of course, has tried repeatedly to get an IndyCar career together after being the dominant driver in American sports car racing for several years. And I think a man of his talent, having the difficulty he's had getting a ride, indicates some of the current situations in IndyCar racing that have led to all the talk and rumors of a new series with Tony George at the helm. I don't think we'll get into that issue today because we could spend the entire hour talking about that. Instead, I think we ought to talk about the leading challenge to the Mercedes here thus far. Last year, the Ford was all the talk of this racetrack as they knocked the Chevys off the top spot. But this year, it's Mercedes with 2 of the top 3 positions in the front row. And this man had a pretty good shot at snatching away the pole, ended up in the middle of the front row. Raul Boesel is a darn good race driver.
And he was the first man this month to go over 230 miles an hour, which he did last Tuesday evening, to the surprise and shock of everybody, because he said afterwards he didn't even have a clear lap, and he was confident that there was even more to come. I think he's enjoying his relationship with his new engineer, Mo Nunn, who worked with Ganassi last year. They seem to understand this car, but it is great to see what I would call a privateer team run by Dick Simon and backed by Duracell have Boesel run so fast and so consistently every day that he takes to the track in this Lola with the Ford XB.
Half the fun of coming to Indianapolis is to read what Robin Miller writes in the Star about IndyCar racing. He says of Dick Simon's team, and we quote, "It is an ever-changing melding pot of unknowns, special projects, part-timers, foreign exchange students, and rich guys playing racers," unquote. I'm not sure which of those descriptions applies to Raul Boesel, because again, this man is a real race driver.
He is, and one thing Dick Simon understands is he needs to have enough cash to try and give Raul Boesel all the mechanical aids that he needs. That is why he says he runs as many as 6 cars. He's got 5 of them qualified at the moment, but that's why he runs as many as 6 cars here at the Speedway. So as Boesel, hopefully his lead driver, can have the realistic chance of winning. Did he come within a black flag last year of winning the biggest race in the world? What a difference that would have made to his life in general.
Exactly, and it would have helped perhaps to bring the money that Dick Simon admits he would love to be paying Boesel if only the budgets were available. In the meantime, Dick continues to put rookies in the field every year. He's put Lynn St. James in that wonderful qualifying spot, and he has 2 cars in front of the so-called factory team for Lola and, of course, for Ford. Here is, I believe, Roberto Guerrero.
Was last year, yes. Scott Goodyear took over from Guerrero, and here is a major struggle unfolding here too. He has gone to his backup car, the T car, had it at 225 miles an hour yesterday morning. but he has been a long way from the required speed that would make him and Kenny Bernstein and Budweiser comfortable with this car. I don't know what the missing ingredient is, but there is something missing here because they have the tools. They're not able to quite massage the package to get the type of speed out of this car that Goodyear has proven he has in him many times in the past.
For the famed Indy Racing Unser family, the joy this week is the pole for Al Jr. For the first time in history, the son of a former pole sitter will start from starting position 1. But for Al Sr., it's been a long month, and with more on that story, let's go to Jan Beekes.
Yes, and the 4-time winner right now is seated on pit lane. Your car's gone back for fuel. Are you starting to gain on the handling of the car?
Not yet, we haven't. We didn't get out early this morning, so we're just trying to sort the car out this afternoon and you know, and try to gain a little at a time.
Now the pressure starts to build as the speed isn't here the first weekend. You don't know what's going to happen for weather for next weekend. It just adds to the pressure. Is there a chance you could get it where you want it by the end of the day?
Oh, there's always a chance. In other words, you know, it just, if you hit on the setup that you're after and you feel good, then you can go after it. Sure, you're able to do it very quickly when you're able to find the right pieces.
Well, he's still got a smile on his face. This guy will be trying very hard up until the last day. Dave?
Al Unser Sr. Derek?
Well, the sound of the voice and the frown and the almost nervous laugh just confirms the trouble that Al Sr. is in at the moment. I doubt if they have anywhere near the speed to make a legitimate qualifying attempt today. They're going to have to use next week 5 more days to try and squeeze enough power or enough speed from that brand new setup Al Sr. has just stepped into.
He and Mario were both rookies in 1965. As Mario retires from Indianapolis, you must wonder how long it will be before Al Sr. must make that same difficult decision. We'll be right back.
Pit lane, the Indianapolis, the entire front row to yourself. Everybody thought you'd have it again this year. Didn't quite happen that way, though.
Well, I think everyone did a lot of predicting about how fast we'd go and we'd have the front row. I think it's important to realize that we hadn't even run this engine in 4 months ago. So the way we performed so far is on track. Al Jr. had a great lap yesterday. As you could see, build up. I think it was a little crisper track. There's no question about it. We were concerned about Mario today, and then Emmo really was kind of the cleanup batter and did a great job in running as quickly as he did, because there's no question that the track today is not as quick. But again, all 3 cars are in. Paul Tracy just qualified, so we feel pretty good.
Roger Penske, he's got all 3 cars in the show again.
For the first time, Al Unser Jr. will start from the pole for the Indy 500. His best previous was 5th. Alongside will be Raul Boesel in the Lola Ford, and outside the second of the Penske Mercedes-powered cars, Emerson Fittipaldi has 3rd spot.
Row 2 on the inside, Canada's new motoring star, Jacques Villeneuve. Michael Andretti, Formula 1 disasters last year, back in contention now. And the cheer for every lady in the place, Lynn St. James on the outside.
The talk on pit road in Monaco today was that Nigel Mansell had been out-qualified by a girl. Here in the more liberated U.S., we give him great credit for 7th starting spot. Harry Lyondike alongside Mario Andretti will start his 29th and final 500 outside row 3.
John Andretti left here as soon as he qualified. He is 38th in the starting lineup for Sonoma, California today. Eddie Cheever very disappointed in the Buick. Dominic Dobson, that smile says it all. He's delighted.
The veteran Stan Fox will start on the inside of row 5. The newcomer, Hideshi Matsuda, a rookie, on inside row 5, alongside another rookie, Dennis Votolo, who ran 2:22 yesterday in a great performance.
Row 6, Jimmy Vasser, lots and lots of talent in his helmet bag. More talent with Scott Sharp and Matt Schuster from Japan on the outside.
Row 7 will have Robbie Gordon, Roberto Guerrero, and Brian Till in a Ford, a Buick, and a Ford, respectively.
Row 8, rookie inexperience, Herta Gugelmin and Bobby Rahal.
And Rahal, of course, part of a big Honda story. His teammate Mike Groff vulnerable at 2:18. Tracy and Fernandez, the first 2 second-day qualifiers in row 9. We'll take a moment and talk about Bobby Rahal, about Mike Groff, and about the Honda. The billboards all over town say awesome when opened up. They refer to the sponsor, I think, much more than the power plant. The Honda's slow.
It doesn't have enough horsepower. There's no getting away from that. You can't run and hide when it comes time to qualify. Now, this is an official Japanese Honda entry. The engines arrive from Japan, go to HBD in California. They just service them. But as regards development, it has to come from Japan itself. And they have to go back to the drawing board because Bobby Rahal, not only Mike Groff, but Rahal may be in danger of not making this race again.
Well, indeed, and it would be the second year in a row for Bobby Rahal. And he said yesterday after his qualifying run, first of all, that's absolutely as fast as it'll go, 220 miles an hour. In fact, Carl Hogan was on the radio complimenting on what a great job he did. But afterward, Rahal said, when I come back next year, I'll have something tried and true. He hedged on what that would be, but it left open the possibility that this Honda effort may be short-lived. What do you think?
Well, now consider this, and it's all speculation. Last year, there was a 7-mile-an-hour spread between the pole and the last man on the grid. Now, if it is as competitive this year, which we think it is, and if there's a 7-mile-an-hour spread, well, then Rahal's in trouble. Mike Groff is definitely in trouble. In years past, there's normally a 10-mile-an-hour spread, which suggests Rahal may scrape in. But I'll tell you what, Mike Groff has a bit of a headache.
It's going to be another agonizing weekend next weekend for Bobby Rahal, the former champion both of the race and of the series, and for his entire team. In all, 46 drivers have entered here, only 33 spots available, and so a great deal of action still to come. Thus far, 17 Ford Cosworths in the field, a Ilmore V8, the D version with 3. The Buick with 1, the Menard with 1. That, of course, is a derivation of the Buick, a couple of Hondas, and the 3 Mercedes. So a good bit of engine variety here. The Fords dominate in numbers, but not thus far in speed. 12 Lolas in the field, 7 Renards, the 3 Penske's, of course, 4 of the 93 Lolas, and 1 of the 92 Lolas. And we can't help but recall, not been very long ago, that we barely had enough cars to fill the field. There was talk that someone might roll an old antique out and collect the $50,000. Certainly we have plenty of cars and engines here this year.
And also how quickly times change on the engine front. It's not so long ago that Chevrolet or Ilmore dominated the racetrack and the starting grid here at Indy, and now people don't really want them anymore. They want the Ford.
Let's get a final thought here as we approach the end of this telecast and the beginning of the Winston Cup stock car race from Marty Reed on pit road.
What strikes me, guys, is who has not yet made the field. For example, Scott Brayton isn't into the show. And remember, he's a former pole sitter here. Also, we talked a little bit about Jim Crawford and the fact Scott Goodyear, a man who goes from 33rd, finishes 2nd to Al Unser Jr., closest race ever, still not in the show. So we've still got a lot of great action coming up yet today and, of course, into next weekend, because a lot of those guys aren't even going to be ready to go today. Let's go down the other end of pit side with Jan Beekes.
Well, Scott Goodyear is just about to fire up his Budweiser machine. They have found the problems with the engine horsepower that caused him to abort the earlier qualifying attempt. Now they're just dialing in the chassis, hoping for some clouds to come in. We may see a qualifying attempt later on today from Scott Goodyear.
Will stay with us throughout the day. We'll be joining you during the yellow flags from the Winston Cup stock car race whenever we have the opportunity to do a quick update from here at the Brickyard. And if the race ends before 6 o'clock Eastern time, we'll be able to come back and give you a quick wrap up during happy hour. Any quick final thoughts here as we prepare to close the hour?
No, but I would just try and emphasize it is so nerve-wracking to have to try and go through the second week of practice when you don't qualify the first weekend. And we just saw pictures of Scott Goodyear, who may be preparing for that second week of long nights and hard graft trying to drag some speed out of this car.
The pressure is on. It's qualifying for the Indy 500 coming up next. Winston Cup stock cars from Sears Point. Stay tuned for that. A pleasure to bring you Indy qualifying. I'm Dave Despain, along with Derek Daly. Our thanks to Jan Beekes and Marty Reed on pit road. Stay tuned. We'll be back during the stock car race.